Well, happy Easter. Yeah, so let's go ahead and put that affirmation up on the screen. So today is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Let's repeat that again. Today is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Well, it can't be all bad. The Diamondbacks are winning 2 games so far, right? Yeah. So Mickelson's in second place in the Masters. Yep. And here we are. We get to play. I have a chance to hike again. So if you were here last week, I shared about a hike up to Praying Hands and the Superstition. Well, Praying Hands, Praying Hands, this is Praying Hands right here. Wow. So that's where I hiked last week. Well, what I did on Thursday is I went out and hiked again. And it was interesting because when I went out to Praying Hands, there were no wildflowers, a little bit here and there, some green on the ground, and I looked at that green and I said, because the rangers, the park rangers in Lost Western State Park, said that, you remember the snow that was there 3 weeks ago? They said that probably killed off the wildflowers, so we're probably not going to see them this year. I had hope. And then on Thursday, I went hiking, and see those flowers down there? Those are wildflowers. And I got thinking about this lesson, because we knew we were going to be announcing what was going on with Joel for you all to hear, and many of you were kind of wondering, what's going to happen, what are next steps. And I got thinking about the seasons, the natural seasons of life. So Joel was going through a natural season. So he's been here since 1975. This church existed before then, right? There was another minister here. Not a lot of people liked Joel when he first started here. So, there's the little things that go on with the ministry. And yet, what he did is he attracted all of us. And I got thinking, did you get your Joey beans? Did you get your Joey beans? No, Joey beans. Joey being. Joey being. And then I got thinking, well, who are we? We are all these wonderful, colorful Joey beings. We're being in our own unique way. And we were attracted here by Joel and his message. But more than that, last week I also shared that this was going to be my 25th anniversary of stepping through the doors of Unity of Mesa. Wow. And it's amazing. I still remember that day, and I'm going to share some of that lesson that I remember. Of course, it's going to be in my own way. It's got to be. But I remember stepping in. At that time, it wasn't in the sanctuary here because they wanted to have one big service, and so they went to the Mesa Centennial Hall. And I went there, and we had balloons as we came in, and we had a choir that was singing up a storm as we entered. And the energy, it was just vibrating. People were up and they're clapping, and I'm thinking, wow. And then Joel came on later on. But you see, the energy was already there. The energy was in the spirits, the Christ presence in every person that was there, just like today. Joel has just been the catalyst for that. So he kind of maybe sparked a little bit for us. Kind of lit the light that we could see our own light a little bit brighter. And he shared a message. And it was from Plato, Plato's Republic. It's a message of the cave. If you could put that next slide up there. So the message of the cave says this. So there were some prisoners that were in this cave. And they were tethered. They were shackled. So they couldn't move their arms. They couldn't move their legs. Their heads were also tethered so that they couldn't even turn those side by side. All they could do was look at the wall of the cave. And you see, behind them, they didn't know what was happening, other than there was some sort of light that was illuminating the cave. And then they would see on the cave wall these figures, these animals and other objects that would go by. And then they would hear some murmuring and some animal noises and things like that. And for their whole life, they just sat there shackled looking at the wall of the cave. I notice we have some youth here. Hopefully you're not shackled to your computer watching video games all the time. And then one day, one of those prisoners was unshackled, untethered, and could move around freely in the cave. And so he turned around, and for the first time he saw something he couldn't even get his mind around. He saw people carrying these objects on sticks, like puppets, and they were going along a walkway. And then behind them was fire. And this fire was what was causing the shadows to occur on the cave wall. And you see, as this person looked at the fire, it was just so blinding. Never seen anything that bright, and he was frightened. But after a while, he saw the beauty in this fire. And he could feel the warmth of the fire. And he got comfortable with the fire. And then he was guided out to the entrance of the cave. And again got afraid. Because there was this blinding light, even more brilliant than the fire. And it was the sun. And it took a while for his eyes to adjust to the sun. But then after a while, he could start to see other things outside of the cave. He could see the trees, and the flowers, and the birds, and animals. And he could smell the aromas. His senses were full. He stayed there for all the seasons to sense the winter. And you see, there's always a winter. So the winter, the Hopi people believe you don't disturb the earth in the winter because the earth is resting. And so we let it rest. And so they don't dig in the winter. They hold ceremonies and prayers for the upcoming year. And then they move into the spring. Spring is the time of planting. It's the time of new growth. And these wildflowers in the superstition, the new growth that's coming out, the beauty, it reminds us of the beauty of life. And so this prisoner was sensing all of that. And then comes the summer, and everything is just full bloom. And then the fall. The leaves start falling from the trees, and everything shifts again. Cycles. And so Joel's going through his cycle. And so he's birthing something new. He's telling the truth. There's something new. And he's talking about doing graphic novels. He's talking about, other possibilities. And first he's going to travel and just enjoy his lovely bride. And just allow himself to let the energies flow and to see what sprouts up. You see that allegory of the cave. What is it that is kind of distracting us? That's kind of an illusion that's distracting us, that takes us away from our joy. Takes us away from this Christ presence that Jesus told us about. Jesus kind of allowed that to sprout in himself, to blossom, so that the whole world could see what it looks like, what total joy, what total unconditional love looked like. He demonstrated it in all the acts that he did. And yet, when he entered Jerusalem, and he was sitting down with his disciples, both there and at the place outside the city, where they went to kind of regroup, Jesus was being very patient with them, very compassionate, very loving, and still realizing they didn't really understand what his message was. So he started reviewing his message with them. And I just want to read you a piece of that as he's talking to Philip. And so Philip had questions, and Jesus was there to answer. So Philip said to him, Lord, show us the Father, and we shall be satisfied. And Jesus said to him, have I been with you all this time, and still you do not know me? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. In essence, he's telling him, the Father and I are one and the same. I've showed you that in pure form. How can you say, show us the Father? Do you not believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? The words that I say to you, I do not speak on my own. but the Father who dwells in me does his works. The expression of God, the expression of that Christ presence, that's who we all are. That's what Joel has been sharing with us. That's what Joel has been telling us to bring forth and to step up with. So he doesn't care how we step up, just step up. And maybe it's time to step up in a new way that you haven't experimented with before. Jesus went on to continue. He said, believe me that I am in the Father and the Father is in me. But if you do not, then believe me because of the works themselves. So you saw the healing. You saw the manifestation. You saw me treating others with compassion, even though they're wanting to kill me. You see that. Learn from those works. Very truly, I tell you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and in fact will do greater works than these, because I am going to the Father. And so he sat down with his disciples to get clear, and have them get clear on who they were and who he was, and it was the same. You know how that story unfolded. And it got me thinking about, I came here 25 years ago, and then I stepped up. They wanted to create an ambassador program, so I was part of stepping up and creating that. Wanted to create a volunteer manual. I'll find it for you. We created a volunteer manual with some other people in the church that got together to do that. Stepped up into the board. No one told me they were going to make me president. I did it anyway. As president, I decided I needed some skills. So I went off to a retreat, paid for it myself. I wanted to learn how to do strategic planning so I could do it with the church. I do that with companies all around the country. I stepped up. I became a lay minister. They started a new program. It was Donna at that time, who was Joel's wife and was also a minister. And so I said, okay, I'll do that. I stepped up. That's kind of why I'm here today. If I hadn't stepped up in those ways, in this incubator to have me see my Christ presence come through, the civil engineer wouldn't be standing on the stage today. And so, I got thinking about Easter, and I wanted to see what Charles Fillmore thought about Easter. So I went to the book called Keep a True Lent. So if you want to know about the Easter season, this is Charles' interpretation of it. And here's what he said about the resurrection. Said Easter is a celebration of the resurrection of Jesus. Its inner meaning and spiritual significance is the awakening and raising to spiritual consciousness of the I am in man. Then he goes on to say, I came that I might have life and that I may have it abundantly. The resurrection is the raising up of the whole man or woman, spirit, soul, and body, into the Christ consciousness of life and wholeness. This is what Jesus did. He unshackled himself. The physical being of Jesus, it was no longer for him to be in that physical body. It was now time to merge with the true spiritual Christ presence that he was flowing through so purely himself, and showed us all how to do that. And so we all have been fed by each other in here. Joel's been a catalyst. There will be other catalysts. There's been other speakers. There's this incredible meditation we had today, this incredible music. All of it lifts us up. A smile from the ushers as you come in lifts us up. Going out into the garden to enjoy fellowship, we lift up each other. That's what this church is all about. And so with that, I just want to remind us that we are here as Christ, flowing through these bodies in our own unique way. And so let's go ahead and end with the affirmation, and then we're going to do an offering. So put the affirmation up on the screen yet. See those beautiful wildflowers? Well, hands, there's the palm. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies this offering. And that's what we're going to do next. And I'm going to write that up there. But we'll leave it up there because we're going to do that next. And so, know that you are the Christ presence as you move forward this Easter day. Namaste.
Namaste.